The Portland is Home team talks real estate. Whether you live here or you're on your way, Audra and Andrew Galler work hard to welcome you home. They make the whole real estate process attainable, educational, and fun. After all, it is the biggest transaction of your life. The Portland is Home team talks real estate. I'm Michelle Odell, your host. And now, Audra and Andrew Galler.
Michelle, hello.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello, the Gallers are back. It's June 1st. This will be published tomorrow, so we have some very pertinent and timely information we're going to talk about in today's episode. The reasons to sell your house in today's market and the reasons to buy a house in today's market. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty, and we're going to talk about what the Gallers are seeing on the day-to-day, on the front lines, what's actually happening there, specifically in Portland, but a lot of times that translates into other parts of the country too. But we're also going to talk about some things that are great to do in June for your home and garden and landscaping as well. But we're going to first start with Andrew Galler's Market Minute.
Market Minute. Hey.
Hey.
So the Market Minute right now, it's June 1st, 2023. Halfway through this year, depending on how you count. Not quite, right? We just got through the 5th month, entering the 6th. Up here in beautiful Portland, Oregon, we are about 3 weeks from the summer solstice, which means at 10 o'clock at night, it's still light out. And I love that.
You're right.
Strawberries are coming out of the ground, and I'm telling you right now, if you've never been here, the strawberries here are like best in the world. Am I right or am I right? The market, I'm going to take more than a minute. I hope that's okay with our listening audience.
It's your show.
Right? It's a crazy market. It's a crazy market, Michelle.
Yeah.
I'll tell you some stats. The market seems to be, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone when I say that the market relative to last year is a lot different relative to 16 months ago. Diametrical opposition, is that a word? Not sure, but totally different.
It is now.
You know, just to recap, the wild ride with interest rates last January, February 2022. So it's at 12, 15 months ago. Interest rates were about to or just did go above 3%. And then by summer, by this time last year, they were 6, a little bit above. So they doubled in short order, which no one really saw coming, except for the people who did. And and then they've been swinging, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but relatively violently. I think that's overly dramatic.
Yeah.
But in 22 years of doing this, I've never seen rates bounce around so much. And of note, again, last summer they touched 6, went to 6.5, then they went down, they went back up. During this last little political situation between the debt ceiling deal, that anytime you inject uncertainty, money flocks to safe harbors. And risk is, nobody likes uncertainty in the business world. So one way that gets addressed is by raising interest rates, which is what happened because it was the United States of America going to default. We all said no, but, it wasn't 100% certain that we weren't. There was talk of everybody saying, if it's not my way, it's the highway. So that is uncertainty, and rates went above 7% these last few weeks, and that has a real effect on our market. So about the market, anecdotally speaking, let me say that we have buyers that we go make an offer for, and we're in a multiple offer situation. The main difference between our today market and the frenzy of 2 years ago is it wasn't 40, 50 offer multiple offer situations. If you go back in our podcast, I think we were talking about that.
Yes.
And now
absolutely.
When we're in multiple offer situations, it's 2 to 4 offers, maybe 5. But it's it's a few, but still it's always shocking because the market's relatively slow, but inventory's low. So it's a lot of what we call, the technical term for it, I think, is mixed signals. It's kind of complicated. And so that's the theme, I think, is there's not one blanket statement. A lot of what the answer to how is the market. It's like, well, why do you ask, and who are you, and what's your point? What I mean is if you're in the first-time home buyer market, it's really still very hard. If you're in the top quartile of the top quartile, it's relatively sleepy. Homes well priced are still going. There's still a lot of money out there, but I think everybody is a little more hesitant. So let's talk statistics, okay? When I look at the market I monitor most closely, which is inner Portland, it's not the entire metro region, for those who have not heard me say that 300 times. Homes for sale, it's up month over month. So for instance, it's up the amount of homes for sale is up 21% compared to last month, and it's up 15% compared to last year. So there's more on the market. New listings are up 5.8% relative to last month, but down 33.8% compared to last year. So the amount of listings, the amount of new homes coming on is down precipitously relative to last year. Closings are about the same as last month, but down 44% compared to last year. And, the spring, I think, and I'll tell you why in just a moment, homes pending sales are up 2.5% from last month, but down 36.7% from last year. So demand is trending up month over month, but down from this time last year. And I think that the big story right now is where is everybody? And the answer is they're being held hostage by those low interest rates. A lot of the move up buyers are not in the market because they've got an interest rate of, if everybody who's listening, I would ask you all, show of hands, who refied and has an interest rate under 3%? There's some wacky statistic of how many homes are under 5%, how many mortgages. And it's an astoundingly large number. I did not commit it to memory, and I've seen different articles have different numbers, so I don't know the number. I'd get it wrong because the article you read might be different than the one I read, but it's something like 80%. Maybe it's 70%. And of those, how many are below 3%? And that's still a very high number. And so the typical normal person, in terms of gross generalizations, when they're folks in their prime earning years, even before, typically buy 150% of the sales price of what they're selling. So if they're selling a $600,000 home, typically one goes and buys a $900,000 home. But and obviously that's not true 100% of the time, and that's why I say gross generalizations. But speaking generally, that's what happens. If you're selling $400,000 home, you're going to look to buy six because, maybe you procreated, maybe you just want more room, maybe everyone got a raise in the last 4 or 5 years. You're doing better. But those buyers, when they bought that home that they're thinking of selling, which they're not right now, and I know that because my statistics tell me that new listings are down 33.8% from last year. That's crazy. That's so many fewer. So that whole step-up market, I think a lot of those people aren't in the market. Those sellers aren't buying. So that's, kind of keeping a real damper, keeping it.
So everyone's just being very careful, it sounds like. No one's making any broad movements or, they're really thinking things over. They're not jumping into, let's buy a house or let's upgrade. They're not doing that the way they were maybe a year ago.
I think that's right. I think that a lot of people, I think the velocity in the market is being tampered down due to these, the interest rates and especially the interest rates relative to about 15 minutes ago, which I would define as a year and a half ago. 2 years ago. And some of that doesn't really make all that much sense because, they grab those interest rates. Why would they go and sell 2 years from now anyways? Okay, so I think that's a fly in the ointment of my argument. But I will say I've never seen so many people move after only 2 years in the market in the 22 years we've been doing this. I can't tell you so many people, and I think I would attribute a lot of that to just the fluidity of our lives. Some people got to go be close to family. Some are moving for jobs. Some thought they were going to remote work forever, and some are having to go back to unremote working.
Yes,
I'm interested to see how that story plays out over time. Is it going to stay that way forever? Okay, let me get through a few more statistics, and we'll move on with the show, right? Okay, inventory Pended sales, demand. I like looking at pending sales more than closed sales on this statistic because I find pending sales, deals under contract to be more of a leading indicator and closed sales more of a lagging indicator. Inventory is up 19.4% compared to last month, and it's up almost 75% compared to last year. But let's keep that in perspective, because right now inventory is 1.2%. And that's just such a low number. It's so easy to double a low number. How much that's up isn't all that big of a deal. So of note, this time last year, inventory was 0.9 months. So it's up 75%. I mean, that's still only 1.2, which is
it's still very small,
historically
right?
low. And the last one I want to talk about is price per square foot, which I find to be not a productive metric in general, or on a specific home, I should say, because Portland is, relatively speaking, a non-homogeneous housing stock. I think price per square foot is an incredibly applicable statistic and metric when we're looking at homogeneous housing stocks. A large subdivision that was all built about the same time, and where homes are relatively the same. Inner city Portland, that's not so much. So, okay. But for the whole market, I think it's useful to talk about. Price per square foot is up 2.9% May over April. And it's down 7.6% May versus May 2023 over 2022. What I have read is that since 2019, home prices are up about 30%, and in the market as a whole has gone down about 4 to 5%. So it's given a little back, but that's relatively minor. That's our market minute.
Okay. So what's your day-to-day like? We're going to talk about reasons to sell your house in today's market and reasons to buy your house in today's market. And let's get into it. So what's your day-to-day like? What are you telling people? What's your spiel right now when you're talking to people that have been trying to buy a home or trying to sell their home, or they're on the fence?
What we find is that anybody who is selling now, really, or buying now, has a compelling need. I'm going to contradict myself on the buyers in just a moment, but for the sellers, they have to have they're moving for a job, just need another house. They were going to do it for a long time and put it off because of the interest rates from the last 14, 15 months, and have just decided, I find that we as a society, we as the sheeple walking the earth, recapitulating to our brand new abnormal. I mean, one day we all woke up, put a mask on, never left our houses again, and started baking bread and making soup every day. Another day, 24 months later, we all took the masks off. I think that everyone's just like, forget it, whatever. We got to move on. And so there's a saying, I heard Audra use it yesterday, so I wrote it down for the show. Marry the home, date the rate.
There is a lot of wealth in the market right now. I don't know if it's just because it's generational wealth or because people are moving from areas where they sold a home for a lot more money and now they're sitting on a significant amount of money. So the rates don't matter to them because they're paying cash.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing a lot, I remember, 20 years ago, probably 15 to 20 years ago, I would have a cash offer and it was very unusual. I would get a cash offer, and even on the higher end stuff. And it was like this, generational wealth type buyer, but they were the less normal. Whereas now I feel like there's a lot more cash buyers out there, which is really interesting to me because then the rate isn't impacting them as much. So then just talking about the folks who the rate does impact,
right,
who are trying to move for whatever reason. Maybe they moved out of town during the pandemic and now they want to come back in because they don't want to do that drive. Right. Or, now I'm not working at home anymore. Now I have to commute. So I need to be in closer because this drive is just like taking a lot of time. Or like Andrew was saying, job transfers, a lot of sellers are, because they are that, some of them do have that low rate, they are sitting and waiting. So when we were having our sales, we have these sales meetings like every week, and we were talking about everything, and we all agreed that there are instances where you still have to move. You're going to sell your house. You've had another baby. You're moving to a different school district, whatever it is. So when your buyers are saying, well, I'm going to wait for the rates to drop. Well, guess what happens when the rates drop? Everyone's out there. Everyone wants to buy. So you're going to be in a bidding war. So we heard a phrase, and it's just makes so much sense. It's like, if you find a house that works for you, even with a higher interest rate, if you can still afford it, like if it's still within your parameters, marry that house. Just date that rate, because it's going to change. It might go up, it might go down, but if you're going to be in this house for 3 to 5 years, the odds are there that you'll be able to refi, recast the loan, whatever you choose to do. My sister just bought a house. So in this time, and she bought a house for like no money. She had a really great interest rate. And she moved because her oldest son was married, and they were trying to buy a house and couldn't find anything that worked and for their price point and da-da-da-da-da. So she sold them her house. And then she went and bought a new house. And, this single mom, just 3 kids, she's not making a lot of money. But she figured out a way. She did a buy down. She found a house that was on the market for a while, threw an acceptably low offer at them, and asked for a buy down. She negotiated, got some stuff. But that's another thing that buyers can do right now, is where they can get the seller to cover a buy down.
Yeah.
They can even cover a buy down. But if you're buying a house that's been sitting on the market, you have some negotiating power. And if the house works for you, then
get creative. Don't hesitate to ask, because they might be dying to get rid of their house as much as you're dying to get into the house.
Right. They might have already moved and they just need to.
And they're paying 2 mortgages right now, and they're just, they could be, not good.
So that's the phrase: to marry the house, find the house, just date your rate, because you can. I was looking back, just another quick thing. We own apartment buildings and smaller places like other single family residences. And I was looking back, and we have rates that are 5.65, 5.5, 5.7 from, 16, 17, 18 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
That we didn't refi for whatever reason, but we didn't. And I was like, well, we were there 15, 20 years ago. So to me, you're borrowing money. You're going to pay for it and you're either the rates are going to drop, and you're going to pay more for the house, or you're going to pay more on your interest. And, the interest you can eventually get rid of it's going to be it's going to even out, I feel.
One way or another. And you've always had the advice of, don't even buy unless you know you're going to be somewhere for at least 3, but really you should be there for 5 years if you're going before you even think about selling at all. Otherwise, you're just all that work for nothing.
That should be your plan, but plans change. And I say that also with some of the clients that we have coming through for design, big design projects, multi projects going on, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I always say, okay, this is great. Let's do all this. But are you committed to staying in this house?
Right. That was my next question. How is the design? Are people putting that on hold because the way the market is, or they don't want to make too many big decisions? It sounds like they're not. They're going ahead.
They're not. We are booked. We are solidly booked through October, and there's some big jobs that could come in at that point. And I wonder if it also has to do with the fact that they're stuck in this home with this low interest rate. Not stuck, but you know what I'm saying? Like they're in this home. It's a super low interest rate. They're not interested in trying to sell for a lesser home with a higher interest rate. So just remodel the whole thing. So we are consistently booked. I mean, I don't want to double up jobs at the same time. That would make me super stressed out. I'm not a big shop. I'm just
you and a handful of dedicated people, right?
Right. And so I've got enough that I really I can take and I'll write about it in my newsletter for tomorrow, like looking into the fall for anyone who is sitting on the fence and thinking, should I not? Well, if you want to, reach out to me and we can talk about scheduling and what it would look like. But people are remodeling. They're giving a refresh.
Making it
nice.
their own. And just dealing, making lemonade out of lemons, if that's the case.
Absolutely.
Do you do decks? Do you have a contractor that does decks?
Oh yeah. We just built a big one in the West Hills.
Okay. Because
we can do decks, we can do outdoor landscaping, interiors, exteriors, we can do anything.
Yeah,
we can do it all. Okay. But we just we stay manageable right now. So
okay.
Real quick, just to back up a moment, you were asking about what are we telling buyers right now, and I'll share with you a few of the conversations I find ourselves in with buyers. One is with rates so high relative to where they were, I always find it productive to ask buyers, why are you even buying? And that's what we used to have that meeting pretty serious with buyers during the downturn of 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, because what became apparent was if it's going to occur to everyone anyways, and as a buyer, and better that they should do it in the beginning of their process, because if this isn't the market for them to buy, why spend all the time looking at homes? I don't have a problem doing it. I like hanging out with all of our clients regardless. But if it's not going to, if they're not going to try to make it to the finish line for reasons that make a whole lot of sense, why do it, right? And so we have a buyer consultation meeting. It's always no obligation because it just seems easier to, sit down. We can explain the process, go over their goals. And the only people who end up buying in tough markets are people who really want stability, which I think is what the house can give us. Solidify a payment, even if it's more, again, marry the house, date the rate. When rates go down and everyone expects them to, we don't know if it's going to be third or fourth quarter this year or next year, but I think that they will be going down at some point, and I think sooner than later, but I don't know that I'm right. Okay. Yeah. So if you want to lock in a payment and not have, rents are also on the rise in Portland. And as far as from what I read everywhere, so it locks in the payment if you want to personalize your home or not have to go check in with your landlord or the whatever. That's why you would buy a home. If any of that, and ideally to build equity too. Okay. So that's one conversation we have. The other one we're in is we went over the market minute, and even with all of the headwinds the economy has, the instability of the world and what's going to happen in the future and on and on and on, inventory is still very low. Supply is low. Demand is lower than it was, but relative to supply, still very, very strong. So what the concern I have for our buyers right now is, hey, if interest rates do dip between now and not too long from now, what will happen? If we're having bidding wars at 7% interest rates, if they do go down, and they were at 6% just like a month ago, 5 weeks ago, and then they took off again with this debt ceiling thing. So if they calm down and start to trend lower, the concern as our client's agent is that they're going to find themselves in aggressive, crazy, silly bidding wars again. It won't take much. But yeah, that's the concern is, if you can get a home without going, just to revisit what life was like 18 months ago, we had all cash buyers coming in 100,000 over, waiving all repair contingencies and appraisals and everything, and still coming in second, third, fourth place on the ones, we prevailed on a lot, but we didn't, you never get them all. When I talk to people, almost everyone, regardless of their occupation, it seems to me that one refrain I get a lot is we all feel like we're working 40% harder just to stay in place. And I don't think we're any different. We still have a lot of calls coming in, and some people are serious, real deal. Other people are just want to just check in. And so, yeah, we're incredibly busy. And, the market as a whole in terms of deal count, I forget what I said earlier, but it's, 30, 40% lower, the whole market than it was this time last year.
Do we want to talk about the best type of maintenance and the things to do for your home and your lands for the month of June? What should you do in June? Now, normally we have June gloom here in the Pacific Northwest. Right now we're having sun, and it doesn't look like we're going to have rain anytime soon. But with all that in mind, what should people do in June? What's a good thing to tackle this time of year?
So it's so funny, but when you're in the fall and you're like the leaves are starting to fall, then you think, oh, I should get my gutters checked. I should get my gutters cleaned. You should actually do it now. Okay. Have someone come out and assess your gutters now. Okay. Get ready. They're slow. It'll be easier to get them in. You don't call them when they're super busy and then they're out 3 weeks and you're in the meantime, you've got like holes everywhere you didn't know about. They can run a hose. They can check everything. So I think it is a big deal. I think get the gutters checked, get your roof checked now. Have someone come out when they're slow. Take a look at this stuff.
And probably your fireplace. What is that called?
Yeah.
All that. Anything up there.
Get the chimney looked at, make sure the flue is closing, look at all that, do a fireplace maintenance. In fact, this is also a great time if you have interior carpets to get those steam cleaned. Because you can open the windows and they can dry faster.
Yes.
You don't want to do it when it's cold and wet. You want to do it now when it's nice and warm out. So I think all those type of things. Okay. Yeah. Combo that with a furnace service and a duct cleaning. Get the ducts cleaned. And here's the big one. When you get that done, get the dryer vent cleaned. Get that blown out because there's a lot of dryer lint that sticks in those tubes. And you definitely you should do that every year. I mean, that should be just something. Another thing that I do every year is I pre-book a window washing company. Because they are also, if you wait and then now you're looking out your windows and you're, oh God, my second story windows are really, I book it in January. Okay. So that's something else. I'll remind you when we go on again in January, book them for June so that June, July, whatever, book them in the summer. That's when I do my windows. Last weekend, we power washed. So we got the power washer out. We power washed the decks, got all that winter grime and
yellow,
dust off.
Yeah, that yellow pollen garbage that's everywhere. Yes.
Yep. We got all the little moss off of the steps. And then Andrew stained the decks last weekend. And this is perfect time for that. This is like you want it to dry. This is perfect time. Get all that stuff done so that it's prepared for And just reach out to us. You can send us an email, hello@realtyworksgroup.com. hello@realtyworksgroup.com. You can reach out to us and ask us if you're in the Portland, Metro, Vancouver area. You can reach out to us and we can give you our recommendations for any of these services.
Mm-hmm. Get outside, get involved, enjoy your June for sure. I'm looking forward to your latest newsletter. Again, if you haven't signed up for the Portland is Home Team Realty Works Group newsletter, do it. Tell everybody how they can do that right now while we're talking about it.
If you go on to either of our websites, so we have two websites. We have the portlandishome.com website, and that just gives you some background information about who we are. You're not going to be able to search there. We pulled the IDX search off of there. It's just an informational. We hold it. It'll probably turn into like design property management website, but we hold the name because it's amazing.
And you can click on the podcast
and
there,
you can click on the podcast there, or you can go to the realtyworksgroup.com website, and there is also a tab at the top that said podcasts, and you can click on that, and you can click on the newsletter. There's a tab for newsletter, and you can sign up for both to listen to the podcast. You can sign up to receive the newsletter. And the newsletter will have a little blurb, tips and tricks, some befores and afters that we're doing, things to do over the weekend, tips for your home, all of Andrew's market analysis information, and we try to throw in a recipe for fun.
Yeah, the rhubarb or the strawberry rhubarb. Yeah,
Strawberry rhubarb.
It's really a wonderful resource, and it's nice. It's a nice little letter from the two of you, and you don't even have to think about it. It'll just show up in your inbox the first week of the month, and boom, you have all this great information that's pertinent to that month. And then it's just an easy way to keep in touch with what's going on with them, because the Gallers are cool. They do a lot of stuff. Yeah, you should follow them on all their social media as well too, because they have lots of great stuff, a lot of great infographics and
you're
pictures
too kind.
and family things.
But
you
you're
get to
not
know
wrong.
them a little bit better. It's fantastic, and you're going to want them on your side, that's for sure. So, all right, we will talk soon then. How about that?
Sounds great.
Sounds great. Happy June, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Portland is Home Team Talking Real Estate podcast. For more info about Audra and Andrew, finding your next home, or selling your current home, visit their RealtyWorks website at realtyworksgroup.com and check them out on Instagram at Portland is Home. Be sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. For help with your podcast, find us at Modcast Productions or modcastproductions.com.